Thank you guys for tuning in to Empower You Crown Up, where we believe in empowering minds to live empowered lives. If you haven't started following me, make sure you do on all platforms at Empower, the letter U, underscore Crown Up. Today, we have a very special guest, Miss Candice Jackson. So without further ado, we're going to bring her to the stage. Hi, Candice. How are you?
Good, Brittany. How you doing?
Good. We're excited to have you as a special guest today. Tell
Thank
us
you for
about
having me.
yourself and you're welcome. What do you do?
So, I am Candice Jackson Long, CEO of CJL Consulting Group, where we help businesses, organizations, and nonprofits strategize, create, and become a brand that impacts the market.
Wow, that is amazing. Amazing. So tell us, how did you get started and like your business? Because you are the business.
I am the business. So I've been in marketing for over 10 years. I've worked in several different industries such as nonprofit, education, luxury air charter, tourism. So I did marketing across many different segments, but I've also freelanced while doing my 9 to 5. And in my freelance career, I would work with smaller businesses and help them with their marketing. When I got laid off from work, I took it as an opportunity to I was like, you know what? Let me take this freelancing a little bit serious, more serious, and turn it really into a full scale business. And I'm glad that I did because you kind of can see the writing on the wall when a layoff is coming.
Right.
So I had some time to prepare and really go through that process to stand up my business. And I just have a passion for helping smaller businesses, more specifically minority owned businesses, grow and scale. And I recognize that marketing or lack of marketing acumen tends to be a barrier to that. So I wanted to fill that gap.
That is really right on point because I've met so many people who have amazing business ideas, but no one knows you exist. And it's
Right.
like, then you're like, okay, I got to spend this money into marketing, or I got to get these ads, or I got to do this, or I got to do that.
Yeah.
And it's so much money being spent out. And you're like, okay, what do I do? Because you
Yeah.
don't have, if you're whoever you're competing against, the big person that's in that field that you're in. So that's amazing at what you do. So how
Yeah.
did you kind of get into it? Did you kind of start with yourself, or what was that like for you to get into
Um, I think it was so if I go all the way back to the beginning of my career, someone had asked me this like what got me into marketing. And it was a movie Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. So when that movie came out, I didn't know what their career was. It wasn't until later that I was like, oh, that was advertising. But I wanted that lifestyle. I was like, oh, it's Black people living like that. So I grew up in Jersey City, and we weren't a family of means. We had an overabundance of love, but
Okay.
we did not have an overabundance of financial resources.
Right.
So seeing that representation on screen just really, really stuck with me, and I just went on this path trying to figure out how do I build my life to have that kind of lifestyle like Boomerang, and not just the lifestyle, but I loved the creativity of the work. I love, and so I'm not a creative person in that sense. I'm not an artist. I don't draw, but my creative mind works through my analytical mind, and that's where marketing for me became a fit.
Okay, I love that. You're right. We only know what we know. So all we see is this. That's it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember you reminded me because at one point I was an educator. I taught math for 5 years. And one point I was like, okay, what is going on here with, the demographics and what I am working with every day? I feel like I was working so hard. And one guy brought it to my attention. He said, you have to remember, some of these kids have never seen outside of this city that you're in. like haven't even gone to the next city over. This is all they know. And some of their parents have never gone outside of the city. And I was like, wow, it really makes you think differently, because sometimes we look at it like, okay, I've gotten a chance to travel here or go there or do this, but that's not the reality for a lot of people. And
I
you only know what you know.
well, I love that you said that, because marketing for me is about exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's about exposure and telling stories. So, I said earlier that I didn't come from a family of means. I grew up in Jersey City, but one thing that my parents gave us was exposure. So we would drive. My dad would drive 2 hours out the city to take us to get ice cream,
Oh,
just so we knew that our immediate surroundings weren't all that was. It just, we weren't limited to that. And it was that seed that was planted in me to want more. I didn't have a blueprint or a roadmap on how to get it, but he did give me the deep desire to pursue it. And it
wow.
was only through that exposure. And I had the same experience. A lot of kids, they don't even leave their neighborhood.
Right.
And so for me, the power becomes, if we can kind of harness this power of marketing that bigger brands are able to leverage and bring their wares into our communities, and we don't profit from it, we can kind of turn the tables and really equip all of these smaller businesses to have access to that so that they can grow and kind of create this mechanism for our kids to have more opportunities for exposure to see what is available to them. It's, to me, it's just, it's something that needed to be done. And that's why I think that I'm a faith-based person. So I felt God was pushing me, like, you're sitting in this season too long, because I'm pushing you somewhere, and because of your fear, you're not moving. So I'm going to remove this thing for you. I'm going to make it easier for you, and I'm going to remove it so you can do what I'm telling you to do.
And he will do that, right? And that's just the beauty of you reminding me as a mental health therapist and talking to so many clients, that when we're at that crossroads, we have two choices. We can find the positive or we can find the negative. And one thing I've been preaching a lot, even to my own children, is that if anyone who's looking for problems, they're going to find it. But if you're looking for solutions, you will find it. And so it's really about reforming and reframing and reshaping our mindset and being ready. Because had you been holding on to that job, and you're not alone, because so many of us have done it, right? We hold on to this job because you know when you're gonna get paid, right? But that's stopping us from being able to do so much more. I once saw this thing, and it was a post that said, well, it was really like a meme, but anyway, it was saying that, you're holding on and you're allowing $50,000 a year to keep you from $50,000 a month, or you're holding on to this because you know what that salary is for the year, but it's stopping you from being able to make millions. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that is so true.
Yeah, it's very, very true. It reminds me of a meme that I have seen, or a cartoon, and it's like this picture of this little girl, and she's holding on to a small teddy bear.
Mm.
And there's this drawing of who's supposed to be Jesus or God, and he's kneeled down in front of her, but behind his back is a teddy bear that's like 5 times bigger. And he's trying to get her to let go of the smaller one, because, in favor for what he has. But
Mm.
in between that, it's that uncertainty that stops so many of us, right? And we cling to security, we cling
Yeah.
to, a level of consistency. But what I have found is I've been laid off a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And each time it just reminds me that there's no certainty. There
Mm.
is no certainty. So for me, I hit a point where I'm my best certainty.
That's right.
I'm my best certainty, because I know I can always control what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. And I love what you said earlier about there are no problems, because there really isn't. It's all about perception,
That's right.
because the whole premise behind a business is solving a problem. And if
Right.
you can identify a problem that you can solve and find a way to monetize it,
You
you
good.
have a business. So it really depends if that problem is looked at as a problem or an opportunity. It's
Right.
really in all in how you frame it.
Yes. And are you going to allow it to stop you? Because, so many people would have said, okay, I'm getting laid off, or why does this keep happening to me? And, you are going to have those thoughts. But the issue is that we don't have to stay there. We don't have to say, okay, this is going to define me. And that's one of the biggest things. How many times do people allow their situations or problems to define them? And so you can find the positive and you can keep moving forward. And then you can see the greater. And then you look back and you're like, okay, now I see why it had to happen that way then.
Yes. But I love everything about what you said, because what you do in the in between season matters. It determines how you will come out of the season that you're in, that valley.
That's right.
And that is the part that I think many people don't really talk about, is how to handle being in that valley season. Because if you are not cultivating, if you are not skill developing, if you are not investing in your personal development, then how you come out of that valley season probably won't look much different than what got you in it. So it's how you cultivate that season will determine if that season will rise. For me, my valley seasons have been planting seasons for me. And I've learned to appreciate them. Do they feel good? No. No. Do I like it? No. Am I scared? Hell yeah. But you have to just trust and rely on, you know what? I'm here. Let me make it work for me.
Yes. And so as you were talking, two things kind of comes to mind, of being in your pruning season, and I remember reading about like the rose bush, yeah, some of those roses, they look good, but they still have to be cut down. They have to be pruned because there's so much better in store and we can't see the better. And so we're thinking like, this is the life and this is how things are supposed to be. But it's like, no, God has so much greater in store. But then I think about Peter getting out the boat, walking on water. And, like people talk about that story all the time, but I heard one pastor put it a little different. He was like, the other disciples, they missed out because Peter had faith. So, yeah, he had started thinking when he started listening to the people. And that's why we have to start blocking out the noise so we can stay focused. Because if we stay focused, then we can keep walking on the water. And he was like, those other disciples, they never even stepped foot out that water. But Peter got that experience to walk on water because he had faith.
That is such a great example in so many different ways, especially when you said he started sinking because he was listening to people. And that's most of our downfall. Yes. We listen to people who are not even attempting to do what you are. They're still in the boat. They're not even trying to come out. So why are you listening to people who are not even attempting to come out of the boat? And this is where you have to get into circles where you are being coached. Yes. And there are people who are further ahead than you. There are people who have passed you, and there are people who are walking the same path as you. Yes. Coaching has made a major, major difference in my life and in my business as I've started to pursue this path of building my business. I stay under a business coach. I stay under mentorship because I can't talk to people who haven't built a business before and ask for advice. You know what I mean? I need to talk to someone who's done it already and is going to open up their playbook and show me what to do. You know what I mean? And then I also need a space where I can be vulnerable and be like, guys, I tried this.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. What's happening? It takes a level of what I jotted this down in my notes the other day because it takes a level of humbleness to sit in that environment. Because sometimes it can be very intimidating. You're hearing people who are winning and who are having success, and you can feel like, oh my God, this is maybe I don't, you know what I mean? Right. But you have to decide is when you are exposed, you have two choices. And this is what my pastor said. He said, when you are exposed, you can either be jealous or inspired. It
That's
is your
good.
choice. It
Mm.
is your choice. And I sit in those environments sometimes, and sometimes I'm like, yes, I'm so inspired I can do this. And then sometimes I'm just like, oh, but I don't get jealous because I look at it like this is showing me what's available of what's possible for me,
That's right.
you
That's
know?
right. And then when we start getting that mindset, like God did it for them, I know He can do it for me. And you're so right about changing our mindset or changing the surrounding of our mindset, because I can honestly tell you the same thing. Because once I started getting into different groups with people, it pushes you to think different. And you're like, wow, like this is possible. And then with people sharing, like I remember one lady, she talked about that too, getting a coach for every area of your life you want to grow. So she was like, if I want to be better in fitness, and I had to go get that fitness coach. If I wanted to be better with business development, I had to go get that. Franchises is different from running a business. I had to go get a coach. And that's when she said her business started to grow. But you have to be humble and willing to help others. And one thing that she was talking about was when people come to us, because that's the thing. I feel like I hear that a lot where people are like, oh, I paid money for this or I paid money for that, but I didn't get the whole, this is what you do to be successful. And like one lady was saying, well, she doesn't mind helping people because at the end of the day, I can tell you all day long what to do, but if you don't go and apply action, then it's nothing that's going to happen. And it kind of reminds me of one time when I was listening to one of TD Jake's sermons years ago. And he talked about how, like, I can teach you how to cook, but I can't make you be hungry. I can't make you open your mouth and be like, okay, I'm ready for this, and that's so true about so many things in life. Like, we have to realize who we have in our circle. Does everybody have that drive, ambition? Because if not, that will pull you back. Because when those moments when you get down and you're like, oh, I've put in so much work, or I've invested this money, or I did fail. Well, actually, failure is a part of success, and people don't talk about that. People will be like, well, maybe I told you not to do that anyway, or whatever, and you start getting these thoughts, but that don't mean you need to quit. Maybe you just need to revamp or pivot and shift, as people talk about. That don't mean give up.
Yeah. So I listen to audiobooks. I read a lot, and some form of it is audiobooks. So I love audiobooks. And the audiobook I'm just finishing up is called Relentless. And he was talking about that very thing in terms of failure mindset. And he said, there is no failure. You determine what is failure. A lot of times we let other people determine what failure is and put it on us, but you determine what failure is. That's if you decide to quit or end, and then that's your failure. You know what I mean? That's for you to decide, or you can learn and then just keep going. So it's like, for me, failure is just learning. It's all data. It's all data. And I think what people miss is, like, success is a compound effect. I know that we fall into the trappings of social media, go viral, 30 seconds, 5 seconds, everything feels so microwave. Like, you know what I mean? Put this in the microwave for 5 seconds, you'll be successful, girl. Go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? But a lot of times what people are missing is, if you look at that person, they put in so many reps already for that viral moment. You just didn't see that.
Boom.
You just didn't see that.
You're right. That's funny because my kiddos and I, we went to a Chili's to go eat, and we were just talking to the waiter, and he was talking about how he's did some videos and became viral. And so I was telling him about some things that I do. And I was like, I was sharing with him a story where I was talking to another lady. She was like, girl, all you got to do is put your bunny down and then you'll go viral. And I was like, that's not me. I just can't do that. If that works for you or other people, that's But when I grew up, like, my mom was very like, no, you don't go outside with your robe on and your slippers. Like, no, when you go outside. And so that's always stuck with me. So it's like, no, like, I would not. You won't catch me outside like that.
Yes. It's so funny. So we lived 2 houses down from the bodega. And
Okay.
I remember my mom had sent me to the store, just woke up, and she was like, go, go to the store and get some eggs or whatever. So I just threw on my robe and I had my scarf on. And I must have been like 9, 10. And I went to the store. I came back. She tore into me so bad. She was like, "You do not leave this house in you in that scarf. You leave this house as if you're leaving with a purpose." Girl, I was like, "Well, it's only literally 10 steps from the house." I was gone all of 2 minutes. She said, mm-mm, and that just stuck with me. So, no shade. People gotta do what they gotta do. But
Right.
this ministry over here, yeah. My mama voice be in my head like, girl.
Oh gosh, and that's funny. But you know how that ties into what we've been talking about is just like those voices are in our head, and like still to this day we're grown and we're like, Imagine how many voices are stuck with people of, don't do this or the failure because they never took the risk. And we are taking the risk because now this is unheard of. Like so many people being able to make the money and do all these things with technology. Because a lot of times the generation before us, they work jobs 20, 40 years, well, more than 20 years, but 40, 50 years every single day. Like there was a lady they talked about in the news, I want to say it was like UPS or something or FedEx, but she worked for years, retired from them, and never took a day off. And I'm like, wow.
I don't think that's something to be celebrated.
We ain't doing that.
No, I don't. I mean, kudos to her, but that is not something to be celebrated. I think that you're right. We're living in completely different times. And this is the year, if you're not thinking about how to strategically pivot or strategically augment what you are doing, you will be left behind. I mean, technology is coming fast and furious. We have AI here. So AI is going to be taking a lot of those sort of lower transactional roles. So we're in a knowledge economy. We're in a space where there's a lot of opportunity to reinvent and monetize yourself.
That's right.
And I think in any age, as human beings, we have a responsibility to evolve. I think that the skill set that we are given is for the moment in season. And we're in a time where you should be cultivating that. I mean, my personal philosophy is that, I'm trying to live abundantly the way God intended. So that is not, my work is things that I am purposed to do or skilled to do. Doesn't mean I always want to do it. But the goal is to build a life where I'm able to live very fully in all areas. And, I love to travel. So, I can't be constrained by your limited vacation times. Sorry.
Okay. Talking about no, you cannot.
No, I would be working.
You're right. It's so crazy. But tell us, what does that look like for our listeners if they want to work with you? Like, how would that look? How can they reach you? And what does that look like for them to be like, oh, yeah, KJL, that's what I need?
So CJL, we work with, if you have a business, you've been in business for a while and you really want to elevate it to the next level, we can help you not only build your marketing acumen, but we will build you a brand so that you actually position your business in the market so that you become profitable. And that is our goal. So we use strategic acumen, we use marketing, we use branding to help you get there. So I am Candice Jackson Long on all my social media channels. You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn are my main channels. You have my website, contact me there, and let's chat. You can also just DM me through Instagram and I'll respond to you.
Yes, and I'm sorry, CJL. We're not
okay.
getting straight from. It's not together. That's why my neighbor, her niece is Candice. But I know CJL. Yes. Okay. So also, as we get ready to come to an end, tell us about like what words of empowerment would you like to leave for our listeners today?
I would say that you are your best source of power. If you are tied to a higher source, you have to be grounded in something higher than you. Whatever whatever that is, you have to find that for yourself, but you have to be grounded in something higher than you. And I think really trusting yourself. What came up during this conversation was listening to other voices. And yes, seek wise counsel, but guard who you're seeking that counsel from. My pastor says, whoever has your ear has your life. So you want to think thoughtfully about who you are listening to. And this means even curating what you take in on social media. Those are all voices that penetrate your subconscious. So a way to start navigating yourself out of that is to curate your playlists, curate your social media so that you are getting messages that will speak to your subconscious. And what happens is you start to become the thing that you start to attract things that will help you become the version of you that you're aiming to become.
Oh, that is so good on so many levels, because we don't realize how just having that thought in our mind, you think about it, then that leads to your actions. And so that's why it matters, like who's in your ear, who's telling you to do this or telling you not to do that. Like, look at how many people, it only takes one bad decision, one mistake to land you behind bars. One thing I talk about a lot of times, and it makes a lot of people laugh, but I'm like, it only takes 1 second to end up in jail. Like, literally, you can feel like you're being tested, and you're like, okay, I can either do this or this. And that's why you have to be rooted to that higher power, to God, or whatever that is for you. Because if you are only listening to yourself or listening to those around you, you'll be in a world of trouble.
Yeah, and I will say that I don't always make the best decisions. If I did, I probably would be a multimillionaire by now. So so yeah, definitely get rooted in something higher than you.
Yes, I love it. I love it. One more thing before we come to a close, you made me think about my kids. They laugh all the time, but one time we were at a red light and there was this guy and he's listening to this music, and that's why I was like, see, that's why it's important on what you're listening to, because you're gonna act it out. So he's at the red light, the music is going, he's doing all that, and I was like, see, that's why it matters what you're listening to, because then even when that music is off, he's still doing things, all this stuff. And that's why, if that's what you want to listen to, that's you. But you bring that energy everywhere you go. And so if we're listening about, guns and shooting and this and that and that, then you cannot focus.
Yeah. People don't, I think what you're speaking to, what it made me think about is what you consume through your diet. And your diet is not just your food, it's your mental.
Yeah.
And if you just sum up everything that you take in throughout the day, you are the summation of that. You know what I mean? So if you're in a place where you're not happy with where you are, I would say first look at, what are you consuming?
Yeah.
What are you consuming? TV shows, all of the reality shows. What are you consuming? And then think to yourself, is this making you feel good? Is this bringing you any closer to where you would like to be?
That's right. And if it's not, you have the power, like you just said,
Absolutely.
you have the power to make those changes.
Yeah.
It starts with you, and nobody can do that for you but you. And I think sometimes in life we want other people to just come in and make the change for me. But no, you have to take that first step. And then as you tap into your subconscious, all of those things will follow. But it starts with you. What do you want? And going after it. So, Candice, I'm so glad and excited to have you on our episodes today. We would definitely like to bring you back in the future as we get ready to do our next season on relationships. And you can tie it into personal, you can tie it into business, marketing, because your relationship that you have with marketing is so important, because it has to be something that you truly enjoy and you're passionate about, because if not, people can see through that.
Yeah. I would love to come back. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, everybody, make sure you go to CandiceJacksonLong.com, CJL, and connect with Candice. And again, Candice, thank you so much for being on our episode today.
Thank you, Brittany.
You're welcome.